Today, we're talking about marketing competitive analysis, which is from the CEO standpoint, one of the challenges is you always know what's going on with you, with your company, with your product or service, but sometimes it's more difficult to do an honest, accurate assessment of the people across the street, the competition, the threats, and we're going to do SWOT tomorrow. But I know you've got some insights on that. So I want to talk a little bit about that. These are the sort of the black letter things that we've got. So, and I won't read it all, but I will run through a couple of these. Your competitors' design, the price, the performance, the quality, the features. When I talk to people about their businesses and I ask them about their competition, sometimes they have a challenge articulating where their competition differentiates from them, where the strengths of their competition are, the threat. A lot of people just answer that by saying, well, they're going up against me and I'm a proven winner, so I got this. That's not enough. And so talk a little bit about that, those original ideas and kind of your approach to getting bosses, CEOs, people to look at the originality of that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times, as you mentioned, a lot of times people come to me or they're, just talking in general, and everybody has the hottest product. Everybody has the hottest song. Everybody has the hottest clothing line. And, you let them tell it. Nobody's ever seen anything like this, right? And a lot of times that ignites a question in me to ask them, which is, have you done your research? The first step to anything you do in life is research. And we live in such a world right now to where you can literally Google, YouTube, anything you want, right? And so similar ideas that, ideas that may kind of look like yours, but not really. And then on top of that, I think a lot of times people forget that your idea takes investment, right? So if you come to me and you say, listen, I have this idea, I want to do X, Y, Z, whether you're coming to me to consult, whether you're coming to me to get a PR plan, or even just look at it from a marketing standpoint, I want to know that you do an analysis on who your audience is going to be, what your budget should be starting out. What type of research did you do? Do you just have a platform, or have you built a house? And a lot of times people don't realize that they want to open the door to the house before they've even laid the concrete. And you can't do it. Like, it's no house there. We're all just imagining. This is imagination until we get it all on and popping. And so doing that research is so essential, especially before you bring third parties in. A lot of times people think, let me bring in a third party and that's going to solve all of my issues. That's not how that goes. You are your brand, whether somebody is associated with it or a part of it, no matter what. It's yours.
And I know that sometimes, the textbook, the classes will talk about subjective analysis, objective analysis. As human beings, we want to look at things from our own perspective. That's really what we do. But one of the things I've noticed about really strong CEOs, female CEOs especially, they trust gut intuition. And let's face it, a lot of Black women, operate on intuition. Many times they've got a lot of wisdom that's come from seeing things from the perspective of being in that position. But where does intuition get in the way? Or where can personal feelings and intuition intertwine, and you're not looking at things in the way that is objective? It's more personal.
Absolutely. So as women, we have to sit different. We have to talk different. We have to walk different. I've been in meetings before where I had on heels and a suit, and every guy at the table had on jeans. Somebody had on some slippers, and it was acceptable. But if, as a woman, if I showed up looking like that, then I wouldn't have been taken serious. Mm-hmm. And so I think that a lot of times, as women, yes, our intuition is very strong, and we have to sometimes take a look at, okay, are we leading with the intuition, or are we leading with reality? And sometimes you got to do both, right? Your intuition, us as women, we can tell you, listen, something ain't right about that. And you have to lead with that. And then, also as a woman, we don't get the opportunity to be emotional in situations. So I always like to give the example of, we watched our first Black and even first woman vice president a couple of months ago at the inauguration. That lady didn't drop a tear. She smiled. But guess what? If she would have broke down crying, people would have said she was weak. So there's times where we want to celebrate something and we say, okay, remove your emotions. There's times where, as a woman CEO, we sit in our car and we will let our steering wheel have it. We're crying, makeup everywhere, and then we go and get ourselves together and go into that meeting. So a lot of times you do have to remove your emotions out of the situation in front of people.
Yeah.
But it's also healthy to make sure you're still allowing those emotions to roll and flow, because we're human. Listen, I have moments quite often. I'm the backbone to a lot of projects, whether it's said or unsaid, whether I'm on non-disclosure or what, and I can talk about it or not talk about it. There's a lot of times where people lean on me for my ideas and my strength. And there's times where I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't have that strength today, you know, but I have to get it together. So removing your emotions is something that we have to do as women. We have to watch our tone, especially as Black women. And even, you know, sometimes when I speak, and I even teach my clients, minimize your hand motion. So some people are like this all the time, and then it becomes a distraction, and then it's a threat and all of this. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I got this hot project.
Yeah.
You got to minimize that, because guess what? That, to some people, that shows that you're not qualified.
Exactly. And look, one of the things for both of y'all, Sky and Latoria, is when we're doing competitive analysis, we look at our competition and we look at them as a company. But sometimes part of the research, not sometimes, all the time, I have to look at the customer experience of my competition. So I have to look at the customer of my rival and see if the customer is actually satisfied with my rival's offerings. But if you look at the customer and go, well, I should be able to be myself, authentically me. I should be able to do all this hand gesticulation and be all over the place and all that. But is the customer of your rival who you're trying to take, are they going to be impressed with that? Because if your goal is to be right, go be right. If your goal is to be rich, that's a completely different analysis. I mean, what do you think, Sky, on that?
As a business owner, as a CEO, you become, or if you want to be successful, you become servant of all, right? That means whatever I have to do in this room to become a servant to this customer, to win this customer, serve this customer, I do that. It's not that you're becoming inauthentic to yourself, but as a business owner, and if you want to attain a certain level of success, you see what works for that person. What are they conditioned to? What is the culture of what they do? If you want to win them, you must do what wins them, not what won you or, you know, your family or customers you've had in the past. It's like a kid. No child is the same. If you're a parent, no one way works for all. So you have to, again, like Justin said, if you want to attain a certain level, you must do what's required for that level.
I've given an example before, and I just made it up, but I said, you know, Jay and Beyonce, for instance, both of them professionals. And let's just say that Beyonce is about to do a show in Madison Square Garden, and Jay's traveling and he's somewhere, and Beyonce is on in 5 minutes or whatever. And they have some discussion. And let's just say, hypothetically, that it's heated. And there's something in the background that she picks up on and she don't like it. And you know, and then it gets heated. And she's got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I've asked the question in front of people, does anybody in Madison Square Garden know or have an idea that Beyonce just experienced that moment with Jay 5 minutes before she went on stage? And the answer for me is no. But I wanted to get your opinion on that, Latoria. What do you think?
In the line of providing a service or being a service to others, I think our audience, and sometimes even our client, our database, whatever, they forget that there's a human behind all of this. So I'll give you all an example. It's a kind of heavy example, but I want to share this because I think sometimes people forget that before this call or before this Zoom, life was happening. 3 years ago, I had a conference call. The conference call was supposed to be at 12:30. I'm in the car. I'm headed to my desk so that I could prep for the conference call. On my way to my desk in the car, I get a call from another client. And this client is basically saying, hey, I just want to let you know, you're the first person I'm telling, you're the last person I'm going to speak to. I'm ending it all. This is it. Tell my family I love them. You don't need to write a big statement. Just let people know that, hey, I'm at peace with my decision. And so I had to talk my client out of that decision because there was value, there was worthy, there was all of this stuff. And by the time I got off that call, and after I prayed over my client and prayed with the client, her decision was different. But I still had to go into that next call. And when I got on the call, I wasn't able to say, hey, good morning, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. Like, I couldn't make that transition. And so this particular call was supposed to be a new client. And I spoke on the call and I gave them my ideas and so forth. And a week or two went by and I didn't hear from the client, but I saw a press release with the client's info. So I called and I said, hey, I just want to follow up. And they said, you just didn't seem that interested when we were on the call with you. Your excitement level wasn't up to par. I couldn't go into this had just happened to me and I was heavy. So what I did is I apologized that my excitement wasn't there. And I said, let's try to give it another shot. So I said all that to say, you never know that before whatever conference call or before whatever Zoom or StreamYard or whatever, you don't know what people are going through, right? And you don't know the heaviness and the load on them. Although I wasn't disrespectful or distasteful, the chipper Latoria that people normally see, I wasn't able to bring that out. So sometimes as consumers and being a part of an audience, we have to say, hey, it's okay to give somebody a second chance. We do it at McDonald's and Popeyes. They mess up the orders all the time. The McFlurry machine is always down, always. And we still give them a second chance. But when it comes to small businesses and things of that nature, sometimes it's how you rectify the situation that can cause your audience to say, okay, I now can trust this again, or I'm going to give this another chance. So it's a two-way street. As an audience, as a customer, you have a part as well. And that takes understanding. Don't be so hard on the smaller entity and be forgiven on the bigger entity. Mm-hmm.
Before you leave there, how you differentiate between that personal moment and what you do in the next professional moment?
What a great question.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. I think I probably would have taken a couple of days and I should have followed up within a couple of days versus a couple of weeks. And sometimes in business, we have to learn and understand the value of when and how to follow up. Some people, when you follow up with them, they make it seem like you're bothering them. And I don't like that. But then there's others where that follow-up is super, super essential. And I probably could have picked up the phone and said, hey, let's see if we can reschedule the meeting, or let's see if we can try it another time. But I'm one of those people where I'm like, if you put me on your books and we're rocking and rolling, let's just go for it. As a business owner, let's also take time and understand our human sense as well and say, hey, if I just cannot do it, I can't do it. And to be very honest, I probably needed a couple of days after the conversation that I had with that client that was about to take her life.
Yeah, and what you find out is with most people, most human beings, they're perfectly willing to accept surprises that they've been prepared for. It's when we surprise clients, we surprise customers with things that they weren't prepared for, that they weren't conditioned for at all. Because we're all human beings and everybody's going to deal with a situation at some point in time in life that's going to interfere with the matter at hand. And what I think is most people are in their hearts. Most people in their hearts are good people. And if you share some information, just say something just happened immediately prior to this, that's going to prevent me from giving you 100% of what I think you're entitled to. And you are so important to me and such an important, prospect for me that if I feel like I can't give you my A game, and this type of thing is so rare, but something just happened, that I need to be able to give you my A game. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people would be receptive to that. But I think what's important about this is, with what you just outlined, we know that some of the things that happen behind the scenes, real life experiences, impact our ability to succeed. In other words, life gets in the way. And they don't teach you that in school. And I think a lot of the women that are listening, one of the reasons we're doing this is because we want women to understand that these types of things that people deal with, I'm a woman, mm-hmm. that's strike one. Black woman, strike two. I've got children, maybe single mom, strike three. I don't have the quote unquote educational resume that somebody else has, strike four. Right. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to have the wisdom or the talent, the access to the information that you can research and the understanding. And I think y'all sharing that information or you sharing that story is going to help somebody say, okay, now I've got a tool in my toolbox that I can put out there in front of if I'm in that situation where I can make sure that I never compromise my professionalism. We've got to find ways to get tools to people to let them know those are imperfections are actually what make us great.
Yeah.
Because it is the people who have been challenged. It is the people who have had an uphill struggle. It is the people that have had to battle the systematic things that are more refined. Mm-hmm. They're more developed. And I know this because I'm in both worlds. I'm in the unprofessional setting, if that's what we want to call it, the non-traditional setting. I'm in the professional setting, the traditional setting. And I've seen the way I can use the skills from the streets and make those apply in the boardroom. But if you had to give maybe one or two takeaways for somebody that's doing competitive analysis, I know you said research on Google. Is there any other things that you would say would be things that you recommend that they need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for getting a mentor. A lot of times people feel like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to bother anybody. Listen, getting a mentor is so essential. I got my mentor when I was 19 years old, and she's the person that helped transition me from radio to PR. And then also, please do write out your ideas. A lot of times I meet people and they just have the idea. And it's like, well, where's the business plan? Where's your one-sheeter? Do you have maybe a EPK? Do you have something visual that we can look at? And then also, please get a DBA, LLC, all of that. I've seen, if anything, 2020 taught a lot of people that if you don't have your paperwork together, you don't qualify for any of the assistance that you can get with your business. So not having that LLC, an EIN number. And again, I'm preaching to you all because I started my business at 21 years old, 2 months out of college, and I didn't get an LLC until I was 26. So I was operating for 5 years just as a unicorn, all willy-nilly. Nobody had told me I needed to get all of this stuff. So anybody could have went and just snatched my little business right from under my feet. And I could have, been sued and everything else. But definitely put things on paper. Make your business make sense to you. A lot of times people come to me and even others and they're like, hey, this is a crazy idea. It don't make a lot of sense. You're right, because we can't even look at it. Like, there's nowhere to look at it. Yeah. So it's indeed crazy. And then understand that when you have people that are willing to support you in any way, whether it's your mentor, your customers, your colleagues, your friends, whatever, give them something worth supporting. So give them an experience. If you look at your brand as an experience, that's what people will receive from it. And I kid you not, 90% of my clientele has been referral based. And that's because we believe in giving our clients an experience from start to finish. And a lot of our clients are returning. So if you could just kind of take away a few things, let's get our paperwork together. Let's get that EIN number, DBA, LLC, trademark your logo, all of that beautiful stuff. And let's also get a business plan, okay? Your business plan doesn't have to be 60, 70 pages, but enough for you to go back and say, okay, here's my short-term goal. Here's my long-term goal. Here's the amount of money that I can invest in it. If you only have $27 right now, how are you spending that $27? Okay. Mm-hmm. And you won't be listen, let me be real with every CEO that's watching and that will watch. You will be the last person to get paid on your roster. Yeah. And if you go in it with a mentality of, I'm going to get paid, a lot of people don't break even in their business when they're properly investing. They don't break even until after year 1, sometimes year 2. So definitely understand, but having that business plan and even a SWOT analysis will help you understand where you currently are, where you need to go, and how you need to do it. And then you can bring in those third parties.
Today, again, Marketing Competitive Analysis. We'll have a worksheet up. We'll put it on the website. I'll make sure everybody, if you want to download it, you can download it, fill it out. It's a good start. To Latoria's point about a business plan as we work through each of these modules, because even Marketing Competitive Analysis, what we're talking about today, some of the intangibles that you have to consider as you get into it, taking the personal out of it. but business plans have to have a market and competitive analysis component to them. You can't just say, this is my plan, irrespective of what my competition is doing, I'm going to be fine. Your competition is what you're up against, and you have to address that in a business plan. By the time we're done with this, we hope to give people every single component of a successful business plan, which, oh, by the way, is a prerequisite to being funded. If you want to get money, like she just said, you got to have your paperwork. And so you can't just go to somebody and say, I got an idea, because an idea ain't nothing but a chemical reaction in the brain. That's all it is. Some synapses and dendrites, electrical signals inside the brain saying, oh, I think this is great. That means nothing to an investor.
I just wanted to say one last thing that LaToya made me think about. And Justin, I love how you say when you guys support somebody, you do it, and you don't do it for the the hype or anything like that. But to what LaToya was saying, what she made me realize is that everybody say, I'm the boss. She's the boss, but she's the boss because she paid the cost to be the boss, right? And being a boss is be the boss, handle business. BOSS, business over social success. People want to look good and say I'm the boss, but no, she's the boss because she's truly taking care of the business. So thank you, LaToya, for all of these gems you dropped today. Thank you, Justin, because you keep bringing it. I love it.
And I just got here, it is successful, but it wouldn't be successful without this community. And so if we've got an opportunity to help some other people get off the ground and can put some money behind them, then that's what we're going to do. And I mean, you're welcome to hire other lawyers if you get into a car wreck. I mean, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm just going to invest in my community. That's sort of the way I see the world. And so that's how I rock with it.